look forward to speaking with all of y'all today. The professor told me that y'all been studying about the Victims' Bill of Rights. I brought with us the pamphlets that we hand out to all of our victims. And like I said, I am Teerah Rowell. I am the co-director of victim services with the district attorney's office. Been there for 27 years. And when I tell you I have seen it all, I've seen it all. We deal with only felony cases, but we also deal with juvenile cases as well. We have 4 counties in our circuit: Jenkins, Scriven, Bullock, and Effingham. Right now, today, we had 2 trials going on, trade trials, as well as a court full activity day with Judge Pete. So we have 5 Superior Court judges in our circuit. Judge Pete is who's our senior judge, has just announced that he's going to be retiring. So we're going to have a new judge opening up. We have 4 Superior Court judges that handle nothing but felony cases. And then we have 1 juvenile judge that handles the felony juvenile court cases for the whole circuit. So we have a big activity caseload for all kinds of things. She's been with us for 2 semesters now. She has had a lot of hands-on activity in a lot of the cases. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that she's been seeing and doing.
Great. She said, I'm Andrea. I'm a graduate student here at Georgia Southern. I graduated this semester in May. Pardon me, I have little notes to talk about of all the stuff that we have. So like Teerah said, we go over felonies, so anything from rape, drug cases, child molesters. We actually had a triple murder, a big case, high profile that we did this semester. Last semester. So I don't know if everyone's here for criminology major in criminology. Okay, so in the district attorney's office, we handle. You can see if you want to learn about a little bit about everything. We have attorneys. So we have investigators, we have victim advocates, so you can learn about the process in and out. The people you will encounter at court will be like parole officers, GBI investigators, or sheriffs, well, anyone who testifies, and you'll learn about the process, like how it works with the hearings and the bonds and how the cases move on. You'll hear from witnesses and expert witnesses, which is really cool. What I have done there, it depends how interested you are. I'm interested in investigations, so I've helped with cases for attorneys over the 80 days. I've served, I've reviewed interrogations. I have actually transcribed a few jail calls that were needed. I've read police reports, reviewed candid footage from police officers, autopsy reports, toxicology reports. We actually have been present for a few of victim interviews before trial and during. So I help prepare for trial. I help with jury selection, which is a really cool part of the process as well. Like how we pick jurors from like how many 500 that there's also you can learn about a really cool IT guy. He wrote it in my notes. So basically whatever you're interested in, you can follow people there, ask questions. They're really nice and everything's really cool over there. So if you want to have some experience, or if you're not sure what you want to do, you can just, if you do your internship there, you'll have the opportunity to talk to different sides. So I think that's very helpful. It has been for me. Anything else you want to tell about the package you're trying to get into? So I also have I'm getting certified in cybercrime, but, I'm interested in investigations mainly, so I like to work closely with their investigators and learn how the process takes place and how it goes through trial. Right now, we have so many trials, like we've been really busy. So it's really cool because there's a lot of going on and you learn about different trials, basically. Mhm.
As you see, she's had a lot of hands-on experience. And, it's not always like that, but this year has been extremely busy because we've had a backlog because of COVID. And we're having to catch up with our trial process and getting a lot of the older cases moved. Right now, let's see, during COVID, we had 18 murders just in Bullitt County, which is a very, very rare occasion for us to have more than 10 in a year. So Bullitt County was the top winner that year for 18. In Effingham, we are dealing with a death penalty case where a family of 5 killed their 2 children, and another one was almost dead before they were able to get him, but they buried the 2 children in the backyard. So they are now dealing with the father of the child as well as the grandmother of the children. They and an uncle that's still to be dealing with their active cases. The other family members have pled out and have been sentenced. So that's going to court case for a death penalty takes, this one started before COVID and it's still going. So, but usually a court case for a death penalty takes about 3 years to get it through the system. And like I said, with COVID, it's pushed it back a little bit longer with that one. And then we also had so many other COVID things that we were having to deal with. So we're still in the process of finalizing and getting to the trial process. Right now, we're just going through the legal process of motions. And there's a slew of motions that you have to go through for a death penalty case to even get it to the trial process. With the other types of trials that we're dealing with, it's not all that involved. You have a few motions and then it jumps to a faster pace of trial. This rape case that they are dealing with both rape cases happened last year. So that just goes to show you how fast that one has progressed. The triple murder case was a year ago, July 4th. So that one finally came to this year. So that's usually, it takes, for murder cases, it takes a little over a year to get on the docket and trial. So those are a little bit faster pace for those kind of cases compared to death penalty cases. We had a child molestation case that she was very active in. She was able to listen to a lot of the jail calls for that. A lot of things people don't realize. You catch a lot of crucial information from jail calls. You also catch a lot of crucial information from Facebook. We do a lot of talking and researching through those avenues as well. So those are good things that we're able to check with. We have in our office, whenever you're a victim, the case comes from law enforcement. I'm sure he's gone through the process and told you how cases come to be made as far as how it's investigated. And then once an investigation is complete, the police departments or sheriff departments turn their case files over to us. Our DAs get it. If it's a victim case, it comes to our victim services unit. We send out letters, make contact with our victims, find out if there's restitution in the cases, if it's a theft case, property case, injury case as far as personal injury or a death of some sort. We send out those notifications to the family and let them know it's in our office. We also send them the paperwork saying they'd like to be notified about the case and what is going through with the court process. We give them a pamphlet of our services, and our pamphlet's got our district attorney. Her name is Daphne Totten. And also it talks about Bill of Rights. Y'all discussed that last week. So each one of the victims gets a copy of this. It also gives them a little description about the upcoming court process as far as arraignments, plea days, counter calls, and get ready for jury selection and trial. So that's what goes out in this pamphlet. We also meet with our victims. Andrea's been very, hands-on with a lot of our victim meetings. And when we bring them in, the VAs go over their statements, make sure there's, there's some witness statements that come in that didn't get put into police departments records. Then we go out and make contact with the witnesses that they may know about that we didn't know about in the beginning. We also, have a great working relationship with our Teal House, which is our sexual assault center. And we also have a wonderful relationship with our Safe Haven, which is the domestic violence shelter that the Teerah stays for. So we work closely with those agencies. We also assist in getting victims counseling that they may need to be able to handle the crimes that they're going through. You deal with a lot of moms who've lost a child, and it's traumatic, and they need to talk to somebody. We deal with a lot of children who've been molested by somebody that they trusted and loved. Getting them to see somebody to be able to comprehend what is going on with them, going on with them, and to be able to get some understanding on it's not your fault. You're not, you did not cause what happened to you, and let them understand that. We have a great working relationship with our judges. Our judges are really good with our victims, and we try to go ahead and prep them ahead of time. Before trial, we'll walk them over there and show them what the courthouse looks like. Everybody has seen TV court, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, okay? You can't put your fingerprint in a computer and boom, it tells you who it is. It doesn't work like that. So CSI has done it's been a big detriment to us in the criminal system. It gives jurors a false representation of how the legal system actually works. And sometimes it costs us in court cases. They think that you should have fingerprints on every piece of evidence. Fingerprints are not found on every piece of evidence. Fingerprints are very, very rarely found at a scene. It depends on the types of surface that's touched, and it also depends on the environment as far as the weather has a lot to do with it. So it causes some hardships in our cases. We had a murder case in Jenkins County. The lady was in prison, and her CODIS, y'all familiar with CODIS, came back. The murder case was 7 years old, and her DNA popped because of a piece of blood that was found on a rag at the murder scene. The jury let her go because they didn't believe that there was enough DNA evidence, but her DNA was the only one at the crime scene. So she walked free. But that's just where it goes to tell you, TV, and you never know a juror. It's just, we call it a flip of a quarter, because you don't know. We'll think we've got a great case, the evidence looks strong, and somebody has a different perception. And that's what it's all about. It's just a perception. Anything else you?
Yeah, about the perception of trials and stuff, like not every case goes to trial, very few go to trial. Mostly everything is done by plea. And it depends on their attorney and the process as well. Their attorneys are allowed to do motions and discuss it, and they can push back the case so much. Public defenders have so many defendants as well, that they have a lot of cases. So sometimes the process is not what you think or what you see on TV. It's
Anything else you'd like?
So will you kind of talk to us a little bit about, we talked about like the crime victims fund and
Yes.
all of that, and how there are certain guidelines that a victim has to tap into that.
Yes.
And some timeframes, and the way that I framed it to the class was that normally victim advocates will help them tap into that. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Victims compensation is a wonderful fund. It is funded by the defendants. Whenever they are sentenced, they have to pay a fine. So a percentage of that fine goes into the Victims' Compensation Fund that is housed in Atlanta. They distribute that. What we assist them doing in crime victims compensation are only for people who have been physically hurt. It's not compensation for property crimes. It is ones that have physically been hurt through crashes, through child molestation, rapes, murders, and those kind of things. So you have to actually have those kind of charges along with it. We apply for it with the victims. We help them collect their medical bills because it can pay for up to $15,000 of their medical bills, $6,000 for funeral costs, $3,000 worth of counseling costs. It also has a crime sanitation fee that they can apply for, because some of these crime scenes can be pretty gruesome. So they can bring in a specialized service to help clean up, so it can help pay for that. There, and a lot of the DUI cases, they work, if it's on a main highway, like 301, Highway 80, we can apply for a name rack to be installed as a memorial for that person that was killed. So that is also things that are applied for through the Victims' Compensation Program. We help them link up with the counselors. They have to have a certified counselor to be able to collect those funds. And it has to have a police report with it. Sometimes we don't always have an offender. A lot of times rapes happen and you don't know who raped you. So you can still apply for it. All you have to do is have a police report. And that goes along with any of the council bills and medical bills, and all that is taken care of through them. We apply for it. There is a 2-year statutory limit. If it is not applied for in those 2 years, you lose that right to apply for victims' compensation. And it's a wonderful fund. It has helped a lot of great people because a lot of people don't have $10,000 in a bank account to pay for funeral costs, and funeral costs are more than $10,000 now, ladies and gentlemen. You know, and it's helps to have that family a little bit of extra comfort, knowing that they have some money coming back in to help pay for the burial costs for their loved one. So it's just a little peace of mind for our victims, and it's been a great thing for them as far as getting assistance where it's needed. The other thing that it's great for is we do make, when we are sentencing our defendants, we make that a part of their restitution. So if CJCC, that's what we call it, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, if they pay out any money, say they paid out $6,000 funeral costs, we'll include that for the restitution. So whenever the defendant is sentenced, we make that a part of his restitution to pay that fund back so it can continue to generate more assistance to other participants that apply for it. So we try to, our police departments are really good. Our local hospital is very good about informing the victims that come up, somebody that's been shot, somebody that's been raped, about these funds that you can apply for. We also send out letters letting them know that they can apply for it. If they come in, I've got a victims compensation advocate that does the paperwork, that controls the portal we have to submit everything through. She is on top of making sure it gets put in the case files to make sure that the DAs are up to date with the amount of restitution that's going out for those cases. So I have one advocate that's her main primary responsibility.
What questions y'all have?
I was wondering, so like, there's so many obviously paths you can take in the system. How did you get into this path? And how do you like not take it home with you in a way? Because you're dealing with horrible things every day. How do you, and you too, obviously, Andrea, like how do you differentiate work and home life and not let it interfere when you're dealing with such difficult cases?
You do carry it home with you? but you have to grow a barrier too. You can become real cynical, hard of heart, because these cases are hard. One of my most memorable cases is when a 3-year-old child was beaten to death by her mama's boyfriend. And she was a beautiful little child. And her family brought pictures of her in the casket, and that picture is forever ingrained in my brain because that's what I remember. And so you're gonna have those cases that you're very close to. I'm sure she's got some cases that she's gotten close to in her short time of being with us that she'll never forget. But you got to let that curtain come down and just know that you got to, for one, you got to have a heart, but you got to understand that it can't affect anything else. It's gonna be a memory, but to know that you're doing the very best for somebody else who's going through the worst that we can never imagine, that's what I want to do. I want to take the hardships for my victims, be able to get them through, because people do not understand the system. It is a very complicated system. And like what we said, what you see on TV is not what you're gonna go through in real life. In a victim's death penalty case, a victim, they've waited this entire time to be able to look that defendant in the eyes and tell them exactly what they feel, and exactly what has happened to them, and they can't do it. We have to script what they can say to that defendant. That has stripped every right of that victim away they've been waiting for that entire time. And that is the most hurtful thing for me, is for that family member not to get that final say of how they've been affected because of this crime. But that's the law. And we have to appease the law, and we have to do what's right by the law. But victims impact statement is something that we stress a lot of our victims for them to do. It is part of the final process that they get to present to the judge. It also goes to the parole board at the time of the sentencing. They get a copy of it. And I tell the victims, I said, just write a letter. Let it come from your heart. Let them know how this crime has impacted you, your family, and what you anticipated the future to be. And that's their only piece of comfort that they get to finally get that little bit of.
I have cried in some of our cases, and especially the triple homicide when the mother of her, two of her, there was 2 of them that the defendant killed, and he was 16 at the time. And she felt sorry for it, because he was a child, he was a teenager. So, yeah, like, it's really hard also when so many years have passed and they have to face a defendant that did that to them. It's really hard for them. And sometimes we can't explain what the reaction will be, and the jury might be that they will cry at much, or they cry too much, and it's understandable because they try to oppress them for many years. Maybe it comes back, maybe they try to move on, and they have, but they still have to face it. So it's really hard.
And each victim handles the case totally different. I mean, you'll have one that's gonna break down at the drop of a hat, and then you're gonna have one that's gonna be stone cold, and they're like, she's not showing emotion. People have to handle their grief in their own way. And those jurors, they're thinking, God, this isn't affecting her at all. They've had to be able to take it in and deal with it to get through life day by day. And it's a hard thing for other people to understand.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, we had a victim from the case. She held it together as well, while she was at a witness stand, and she held it together. But when she got of it, like, she broke down and she had a big report and got a lot of emotions, and it happened to me.
Other questions? we do internships, and like Andre said, we do have capabilities of working. We have 3 investigators. We have 2 part-time investigators. We also have a newly IT guy, and the IT guy helps us with all of our court presentations as far as PowerPoints. Each courtroom is a little bit different with the court process systems that they use, like Scriven and Jenkins. We're still lost in the 50s, people. So we don't have all this nice technology that Effingham and Bullitt County have. So our IT guy goes and gets everything up and working with us, and he's able to,
He helps prepare with PowerPoints, anything technical that we have to do with computers and stuff.
like a lot of the jail calls, they'll end up playing some of the jail calls, so he gets all of that to where the sound system's working right. So he's there. We also have, my victims advocate unit. We have 3 advocates. I have a, full-time secretary who does all of our mailings and notifications. And then, we also have an office in Effingham. So we've got a satellite office in Effingham where we have 3 DAs, a victim advocate, an investigator, and 2 secretaries there. So we've got a pretty big circuit. I think last quarter, we have to submit our victims statistics quarterly. Last quarter, we serviced over 800 victims. And we did 1,200 services to those 800 victims. So that's just in a quarter. So I mean, that goes to show you how much is going on through our office at any given time. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever had a victim who's like who like started the process and then said they can't do it anymore? And like in those cases, what happened?
A lot of times it's domestic cases.
We actually have one that the victim moved out of the state. So she's not coming back because she had relatives, and she can, even if we offer to pay like for hotel or the stay, she couldn't leave her job or her position or whatever, so we have to. That's all okay, because we couldn't do it without the victim. Some cases we can, but some cases.
A lot of domestic cases, they, their financial support, they've lost it. So that defendant puts a lot of pressure on the victim. Get the cash drop, let's get back together, we've got kids together. I'll take care of it. I promise it won't happen again. So, but those cases, we can still, if it's pretty bad, we can still go forward with it because we'll have great police interviews. Sometimes we'll have some good body cam where they'll explain exactly what happened. So we can go forward with it. It's going to be totally up to the DA on what they want to do as far as continuing with it or to go ahead and dismiss it. But we do have that. We have it. It happens on a lot of issues, of course, especially with the domestic. But what we tell them, it is not them because they're saying you can get the cash charge. You can get, no, it is the state of Georgia versus the defendant. It is not the victim versus the defendant. So the victim does not have that right to drop it. And we tell that victim that all the time. You can't drop this. You need to tell them that you didn't bring these charges. Law enforcement was called. Law enforcement saw that there was a need for charges to be brought. That's where it begins, is when they were called and they saw the evidence, and that's where they took them down. So that helps give the victim a lot of power to the defense, to the defendant's family, because that's usually where it's coming from, the defendant's family, to have the charges dropped. So that's a little bit of plus for us.
When you guys like victims who don't want to make a victim impact statement, how do you encourage those things? Like, are you encouraging them like to?
A lot of times they'll get on the stand at the sentencing phase of it if they don't write an impact statement, so they can say it during that point. But if they don't, we just, like I said, each victim's gonna be a little different. It's totally up to them if they want to or not. But if they do, then we will encourage them to do it, but if they don't, then we totally understand.
Some victims need a little bit of time, to process everything. And sometimes they don't want to do it, I really process things like we have on this food. She did everything she could legally, as far as evidence, but she needed to request probably for begin to prosecute it. But he didn't even had the chance to tell her parents, and she wanted some time to tell her parents and her friends about the situation first. And she didn't know how.
What's the most common crime that you deal with?
Financial, thefts, burglaries. Gang activity around this area is pretty prominent, so that's where a lot of our murders are happening because of the gang activity around. And that's all linked into drugs, and then, which as I'm sure y'all studied the wheel, it links into drugs, links into stealing, and it keeps evolving, so that's the root of all evil pretty much.
Once all like the legal proceedings are over, do the advocates still stay in touch with the victim?
Sometimes I still have some of my victims that I'm friends with on Facebook, and I'll wish them a happy birthday, or I'll see it's the anniversary of the child's death, and I'll be, hey, I'm thinking about you. Because like she said, there's just some cases that you're going to always remember. But I just want them to know that I'm not forgotten them. Anything else?
So before we close out, I want you to kind of, you touched on this a little bit, but can you talk about working as part of an MVP?
Sure. The sexual assault team that we have, it is it's our office, the police department, sheriff department people, as far as some of their investigators. We also have counseling services that are part of the MVP teams. We also have a few citizens that can be a part of the MVP teams, that are really in tune with what's going on in their community. So they like to be involved with some of these organizations. You've got a lot of great people in your communities, and a lot of them want to make an effort to do everything they can. So a lot of them get involved with agencies such as MVP teams like that. With our Safe Haven. Safe Haven does a lot of, I'm sure y'all seen Dancing with the Stars around. They work with all kinds of agencies, not just law enforcement, but they interact with churches to help make donations for. I was talking to Kim Williams, is our Safe Haven guru that does all of our TPOs and everything, and they were collecting Valentines for some of the ladies and the children so that they can have a special little something for Valentine's. They're also getting ready for Easter, so she's collecting the Easter basket. So they're working with all kind of other organizations, local churches and local food banks and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of different realms that you can get into with your MDTs like that. Very cool. It is. We've got a really good giving community.
Awesome. We got time for one last question. Anybody have any last questions? All right. Let's thank Ms. Teerah and
If you're